The Discovery. Captain Elena Santos stood at the helm of the UES Artemis, her dark eyes fixed on the swirling anomaly that had drawn their attention 3 days ago. The exploration vessel's sensors had detected something unprecedented, a perfectly symmetrical gravitational distortion that defied natural formation. "Dr. Robertson, any changes in the readings?" she asked, turning to her chief scientist. The older man shook his head, his weathered face illuminated by the soft blue glow of his holographic displays. "Still stable, Captain. But there's something else." He paused, adjusting his neural interface. "The quantum signatures suggest this isn't a natural phenomenon. It's artificial, and if I'm reading this correctly, it's active." Elena felt a familiar tension in her shoulders. The Artemis was classified as an exploration vessel, but like all ships in the United Earth Fleet, she carried more than just scientific equipment. Humanity had learned the hard way that the galaxy wasn't always friendly. "Lieutenant Chen, status of our defensive systems?" "All green, Captain," the young tactical officer responded. "Kinetic barriers are at full strength, and our weapon systems are in standby mode. Ghost drones are deployed in a standard defense pattern." The bridge fell silent as the anomaly suddenly pulsed with brilliant crystalline light. First contact protocols had been drilled into every crew member, but theory and practice were very different things. "Multiple objects emerging from the distortion," announced Senior Officer Patel from the sensor station. "Structure appears crystalline in nature, geometric patterns unlike anything in our database." Elena straightened her uniform. "All stations, maintain current positions. Let's show our potential new friends that we know how to be civilized." She paused, then added quietly, "But keep those kinetic barriers up, just in case." The objects coalesced into a single massive vessel that seemed to be composed entirely of living crystal. It dwarfed the Artemis, its surface refracting starlight in mesmerizing patterns. The ship's design was organic yet geometric, suggesting a civilization that had mastered the integration of technology and natural growth. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission," Communications Officer Torres reported. Well, it's not exactly a standard communication signal. The message seems to be encoded in quantum-entangled light patterns." "Can we decode it?" "The AI is working on it now, yes, translating." The bridge's main display illuminated with a cascade of crystalline formations that gradually resolved into a humanoid figure composed entirely of translucent, geometric shapes. When it spoke, its voice was harmonic, like multiple tones speaking in perfect synchronization. "Greetings, carbon-based vessel. We are the Valkyrie. Your presence here was unexpected." Elena stepped forward. "I am Captain Elena Santos of the United Earth ship Artemis. We are an exploration vessel on a mission of peaceful discovery." The crystalline being seemed to shimmer with interest. "Your vessel, our scans indicate a curious combination of technologies. You possess both primitive projectile weapons and advanced quantum field manipulators. This is inefficient. We prefer to think of it as being pragmatic," Elena replied diplomatically. "Different tools for different situations." The conversation was interrupted by a sudden blaring of alarms. Lieutenant Chen's hands flew across his tactical display. "Captain. Multiple ships dropping out of FTL. Energy signatures are off the charts." Before Elena could respond, space itself seemed to tear open as a fleet of sleek, predatory vessels materialized around both ships. Their hulls were black as the void itself, covered in pulsing red energy lines that looked unnervingly like blood vessels. Nexary warships, the Valkyrie representative's harmonious voice now carried a note of alarm. "They are a scourge in this sector. They consume technology and resources from other species, leaving only destruction in their wake." Elena's training kicked in instantly. "All hands, battle stations. Lieutenant Chen, bring all weapons online. Patel, get me a full tactical analysis of those ships. Torres, open a secure channel to our new Valkyrie friends. The Nexary ships moved with terrible purpose, forming a perfect attack pattern around both vessels. Their message, when it came, was brief and chilling: your technologies will be harvested. Resistance is inefficient. Elena allowed herself a grim smile. The Artemis might look like a simple exploration vessel, but humanity had learned long ago that exploration and survival often went hand in hand in the unforgiving depths of space. As the first energy beams lanced out from the Nexary ships, she gave the order that would change the course of human-alien relations forever. Show them why humanity never leaves home without a backup plan. All hands, prepare for combat. Desperate alliance. The Artemis shuddered as the first Nexary energy blast impacted its kinetic barriers. Lieutenant Chen's fingers danced across his tactical display, adjusting shield frequencies in real time. Barriers holding at 78%, he reported. Their weapons are adaptive, they're already trying to match our shield resonance. Captain Santos watched as the Valkyrie vessel's crystalline surface seemed to ripple and flow, forming new geometric patterns in response to the attack. Torres, status of our communication link with the Valkyrie. Channel stable, Captain. They're impressed by our defensive capabilities. Apparently, most species' shields fail instantly against Nexary weapons. The Valkyrie representative's crystalline form materialized on the bridge's communication display. Captain Santos, we propose immediate tactical synchronization. The Nexary hunt in perfect geometric formations, their weakness lies in forced asymmetry. Elena nodded, her mind already racing with possibilities. Dr. Robertson, what do we know about their ship composition? The chief scientist's neural interface pulsed as he processed sensor data. Fascinating, their hulls appear to be biomechanical. Those red lines we're seeing. They're actually energy conduits that function like a circulatory system. Like blood vessels, Elena mused. A plan was forming in her mind. Lieutenant Chen, load the kinetic batteries with our experimental shatter rounds. The tactical officer's eyes widened. Captain, those are meant for asteroid mining. And now they're meant for whatever keeps us alive. Elena turned to her crew. The Nexary expect energy weapons, beams, pulses, the kind of advanced technology they usually encounter. What they don't expect is something as primitive as physically breaking their ships apart. The bridge crew worked with practiced efficiency as Elena shared her plan with the Valkyrie. The crystalline beings were initially skeptical of such an unorthodox approach, but desperation made for strange allies. Contact in 30 seconds, Patel announced. They've finished their attack formation, it's perfect, almost mathematical in precision. Elena allowed herself a small smile. That's exactly what we're counting on. All hands, execute Operation Asymmetry. The Artemis's response was anything but mathematical. Instead of meeting the Nexary's precise formation with similar tactics, the human vessel seemed to move erratically, almost drunkenly. Ghost drones launched in seemingly random patterns, creating a chaotic web of movement that disrupted the Nexary's carefully calculated targeting solutions. They're adjusting their formation to compensate, Chen reported. Just as predicted, they can't help trying to restore geometric perfection. Now! Elena commanded. The Artemis's kinetic batteries roared to life, launching salvos of shatter rounds. These weren't simple projectiles, they were sophisticated mining charges designed to break apart asteroids in precise, controlled patterns. As they impacted the Nexary ship's hulls, they created resonance frequencies that traveled through those blood-like energy conduits. Simultaneously, the Valkyrie vessel executed its part of the plan. Its crystalline surface fractalized into thousands of refracted energy beams, turning the very fabric of space around them into a kaleidoscopic maze. The Nexary ship sensors, designed to track orderly patterns and predictable energy signatures, were overwhelmed by the chaos. It's working! Dr. Robertson exclaimed. The shatter rounds are creating cascade failures in their power distribution systems. Their biomechanical hulls can't adapt fast enough to the random vibration patterns. The bridge crew watched in amazement as the first Nexary vessel's red energy lines flickered and went dark. The ship's perfect geometric form began to break down, its hull cracking along stress lines that shouldn't have existed in their advanced materials. But the victory was short-lived. The remaining Nexary ships quickly adapted, their hulls pulsing with angry red light. Energy beams lanced out in new patterns, catching one of the Artemis's ghost drones and vaporizing it instantly. "They're learning," Chen warned. "Adjusting their weapons to counter both our kinetic attacks and the Valkyrie's crystal refraction." Elena gripped her command chair as another blast rocked the ship. "That's the thing about humanity, Lieutenant. We're pretty good at learning too. Dr. Robertson, remember that quantum signature you detected from the Valkyrie's initial anomaly?" The scientist nodded slowly, then his eyes lit up as he grasped her meaning. "Captain, that's incredibly risky. The energy requirements alone would be met by routing power from our kinetic barriers," Elena finished. "Yes, it's risky. It's also exactly the kind of asymmetric thinking these Nexary can't predict." She opened the channel to the Valkyrie ship. "My friends, I have a proposal. It's either brilliant or insane, depending on your perspective. Either way, I think it's about to make history." The crystalline being's harmonic voice carried a note of curiosity. "We are learning, Captain Santos, that with humans, brilliance and insanity often coincide. Share your plan." As Elena outlined her strategy, even her own crew looked at her with a mixture of awe and concern. It was exactly the kind of plan that had made humanity both respected and feared in their own solar system, the kind that either ended in spectacular success or spectacular failure. "All hands," she announced, her voice steady despite the gravity of the moment, "prepare for temporal displacement maneuver. And maybe say a quick prayer that our Valkyrie friends are as good at breaking physics as they look." The battle was about to enter a phase that would redefine the possible, assuming they survived the next few minutes. Breaking the laws of physics. The space around the Artemis rippled like heat waves over desert sand as Dr. Robertson made the final adjustments to the ship's quantum field generators. Every crew member could feel the subtle vibration in their bones, the sensation of reality itself preparing to bend. "Valkyrie quantum signature synchronized," he reported, his voice tense. "Captain, I should note that this maneuver has a 17% chance of turning us all into quantum foam." "Noted, Doctor," Elena replied, her eyes fixed on the tactical display where the Nexary ships were regrouping for another attack. "And the other 83%? We make scientific history. Assuming we survive to publish the papers." The Valkyrie's crystalline vessel had positioned itself precisely 12,000 kilometers from the Artemis, its geometric structure pulsing with increasing intensity. Together, the two ships were about to attempt something that existed only in theoretical physics papers: artificial temporal displacement through quantum entanglement. "All hands, this is the captain," Elena's voice rang through the ship's comm system. "What we're about to attempt has never been done before. We're going to use the Valkyrie's quantum manipulation technology in conjunction with our own field generators to create a localized time distortion. In simple terms, we're going to make time flow differently for us than it does for the Nexary." Lieutenant Chen spoke up from his tactical station. "Captain, the Nexary have launched another wave of biomechanical projectiles. Impact in 40 seconds. Perfect timing," Elena smiled. "Let's show them why you should never corner a species that treats physics like suggestions rather than laws. Execute Operation Timebreak." The Artemis's quantum field generators spun up to maximum power, creating a resonance pattern that matched the Valkyrie ship's crystalline frequency. The space between the two vessels began to shimmer with impossible colors as reality itself prepared to hiccup. "Quantum entanglement field stable," Dr. Robertson announced, his neural interface blazing with data. "Temporal displacement initiating in 3, 2, 1. Time fractured." For the crew of the Artemis, the universe outside their quantum bubble seemed to slow to a crawl. The Nexary projectiles, previously streaking toward them at devastating speed, now appeared to drift like leaves on a lazy breeze. Temporal differential is holding, Robertson reported, his voice filled with wonder. We're experiencing time at roughly 50 times the normal rate relative to the space around us. Elena didn't waste a moment. Lieutenant Chen, reconfigure all weapon systems for rapid-fire deployment. They may see us moving at impossible speeds, but we'll still have to deal with the laws of physics inside our bubble. The next few minutes, or seconds, depending on one's temporal perspective, were a symphony of coordinated chaos. The Artemis and the Valkyrie vessel moved in perfect harmony, their weapons finding gaps in the Nexary defenses that shouldn't have existed. To the hostile aliens, their targets seemed to teleport around them, striking from multiple angles simultaneously. Their biomechanical systems can't adapt fast enough, Patel reported from the sensor station. They're trying to predict our movements, but we're operating on a completely different temporal framework. The Nexary response was devastating in its desperation. Unable to track their targets effectively, they began saturating space with widespread energy barrages, hoping to hit something by sheer volume of fire. Kinetic barriers at 40%. Chen warned as a lucky shot grazed their hull. We can't maintain this temporal differential much longer. We don't need to, Elena responded, her mind racing ahead to the next phase. Dr. Robertson, what happens if we suddenly collapse the temporal field while maintaining our quantum entanglement with the Valkyrie ship? The scientist's eyes widened as he ran the calculations. The energy feedback would create a massive quantum shockwave. At this level of temporal differential. He paused. Captain, that would tear apart anything caught in the wave front. Anything with a normal spacetime signature, Elena corrected. But our quantum entanglement with the Valkyrie ship would protect us both. She opened a channel to their allies. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? The Valkyrie's response came in harmonious tones that somehow managed to convey both amusement and approval. We begin to understand why your species has survived despite your apparent technological limitations, Captain Santos. You think in ways that defy conventional logic. I'll take that as a compliment. All hands, prepare for field collapse on my mark. And someone remind me to thank our engineers for overbuilding every system on this ship. As the crew braced for what was about to happen, Elena couldn't help but appreciate the irony. The Nexary had attacked them because they saw both humans and Valkyrie as technologically inferior species worthy only of being harvested. Instead, they were about to learn a harsh lesson about the dangers of underestimating those who approached problems from different angles. Time differential at maximum sustainable levels, Robertson announced. Field collapse will occur in 10 seconds whether we want it to or not. Elena nodded grimly. Then let's make it count. All hands, break physics. The universe held its breath, and then everything changed. Ripples in reality. The collapse of the temporal field hit space like a stone thrown into a still pond, except the ripples moved through time itself. The quantum shockwave expanded outward at relativistic speeds, distorting everything in its path. For a brief moment, the stars themselves seemed to stutter in their ancient dance. Quantum shockwave expanding as predicted, Dr. Robertson announced, his neural interface struggling to process the cascade of data. The Nexary ships, their biomechanical systems are experiencing temporal feedback loops. Through the Artemis's viewports, the crew watched in awe as the Nexary vessels began to experience multiple moments in time simultaneously. Their hulls shifted between states of damage and repair, their weapon systems fired and unfired, their very existence seemed to blur between moments. Their biomechanical technology is working against them, Elena observed. Their ships are trying to adapt to temporal changes that haven't happened yet while simultaneously experiencing changes that already occurred. The Valkyrie's crystalline vessel pulsed with energy, its quantum entanglement with the Artemis protecting both ships from the temporal chaos they had unleashed. Their alien allies' harmonic voice came through clear despite the dimensional disturbance. Fascinating. Your species' willingness to manipulate fundamental forces is both terrifying and admirable, Captain Santos. We are detecting complete systemic failures across the Nexary fleet. Lieutenant Chen's tactical display was a symphony of alerts and warnings. Multiple Nexary vessels experiencing critical temporal fractures. Their power cores are. He paused, checking his readings again. Captain, their cores are existing in multiple temporal states simultaneously. The energy buildup is off the charts. All hands, brace for temporal backlash. Elena commanded. Dr. Robertson, reinforce our quantum synchronization with the Valkyrie. Lieutenant Chen, divert all remaining power to the kinetic barriers. The space around them erupted as the first Nexary vessel succumbed to temporal stress. Its power core, caught between past and future states, created a brilliant explosion that seemed to happen both forward and backward in time. The effect cascaded through the Nexary fleet, each ship's destruction triggering a chain reaction in its neighbors. Temporal shockwave approaching. Patel warned from her sensor station. Impact in 3 seconds. The wave hit the Artemis like a tsunami, but the quantum entanglement held. The crew felt reality flex around them. Some reported seeing multiple versions of themselves performing different actions, others experienced moments from their past and potential futures simultaneously. Through it all, the ship's systems remained stable, protected by their connection to the Valkyrie vessel's crystalline quantum matrix. As the temporal chaos began to settle, Elena took stock of their situation. The Nexary fleet had been completely destroyed, their advanced technology proving to be their undoing when faced with temporal manipulation. But the cost of victory was becoming apparent. Dr. Robertson, status report on local spacetime stability. The scientist's face was grim as he studied his readings. We've created something unprecedented, Captain. The temporal shockwave has left scars in the fabric of spacetime. Small areas where time flows differently or doesn't flow at all. Navigation through this sector will be challenging for the foreseeable future. A fitting memorial, the Valkyrie representative commented. A graveyard marked not by debris, but by wounds in time itself. Elena nodded solemnly. Senior Officer Patel, begin mapping these temporal anomalies. We'll need to warn other ships about the dangers in this sector. She paused, considering their next moves carefully. Torres, open a channel to Earth Command. They'll want to know about both our new allies and the potential implications of temporal warfare. As her crew worked to document and understand what they had just accomplished, Elena found herself reflecting on the events that had led them here. What had started as a simple exploration mission had evolved into first contact, then combat, and finally into something that would change humanity's understanding of physics forever. The Valkyrie's next transmission carried a note of respect that hadn't been present in their earlier communications. We have studied thousands of species across multiple galaxies, Captain Santos, but few have demonstrated such creative approaches to seemingly impossible situations. Perhaps there is much our civilizations could learn from each other. I believe you're right, Elena replied, watching as her science team began documenting the temporal anomalies they had created. Though I suspect this incident will lead to some interesting discussions about the ethical implications of weaponizing time itself. Indeed. Your species' tendency to transform scientific discoveries into military advantages is concerning. Yet it is also this very adaptability that makes you fascinating. You demonstrate that technological advancement does not always follow predictable paths. The bridge crew's attention was drawn to a new alert from Dr. Robertson's station. Captain, we're detecting some unusual readings from the temporal anomalies. They appear to be communicating with each other. Elena raised an eyebrow. Communicating? How is that possible? Unknown, but the quantum signatures suggest some form of information exchange between different points in time. It's as if we've created a network of temporal nodes, each one containing fragments of both past and future events. The implications were staggering. They had not only won a battle but potentially discovered a new form of quantum communication that transcended time itself. The victory against the Nexari now seemed almost secondary to the scientific breakthrough they had stumbled upon. "Send all data to Earth Command," Elena ordered. "And prepare a full briefing for our Valkyrie allies. I have a feeling this is just the beginning of a much larger adventure." As the Artemis's systems continued to monitor the temporal anomalies, Elena couldn't help but smile. Humanity had once again proved that its greatest strength lay not in superior technology or overwhelming force, but in its ability to think beyond conventional limitations and turn desperate situations into opportunities for advancement. The universe, it seemed, had become a much more interesting place. The dawn of a new era. 3 weeks after the battle, the Artemis hung in high orbit above Earth, its hull still bearing the scars of their encounter with the Nexari. The ship's observation deck had been converted into an impromptu conference room, where Captain Elena Santos sat across from both Earth military officials and a delegation of Valkyrie representatives. "So let me understand this correctly," Admiral Chen said, his holographic form flickering slightly. "Not only did you engage in combat with an unknown hostile species, but you also deliberately manipulated the fabric of spacetime itself." "That's correct, Admiral," Elena responded, maintaining her composure. "The alternative was allowing both our ship and the Valkyrie vessel to be destroyed by the Nexari fleet." The Valkyrie delegate, whose crystalline form seemed to shimmer with different colors as they spoke, added their perspective. "What your captain fails to mention is that the strategy she devised has revolutionized our understanding of quantum mechanics. The temporal communication network created by the anomalies has implications far beyond military applications." Dr. Robertson, who had spent the past weeks studying the temporal anomalies, brought up a holographic display of their findings. "The network appears to be self-sustaining," he explained. "Each anomaly acts as a node in a vast quantum web, capable of transmitting information not just through space, but through different temporal states. We're only beginning to understand the possibilities." The Admiral's expression remained stern, but there was a glimmer of interest in his eyes. "And the Valkyrie are willing to share their quantum manipulation technology with us?" "We propose a full technological exchange," the Valkyrie representative responded. "Your species' unique approach to problem-solving, combined with our advanced understanding of crystal matrices and quantum mechanics, could lead to developments neither of our civilizations could achieve alone." Elena watched as various holographic displays showed the ongoing research being conducted at the battle site. The temporal anomalies had attracted scientists from both Earth and the Valkyrie homeworld, all eager to study this unprecedented phenomenon. What had started as a desperate battle maneuver had evolved into the greatest scientific collaboration in human history. "There's more," Elena added, nodding to Lieutenant Chen. Her tactical officer brought up a new display showing long-range sensor data. "The temporal network we created appears to be having an unexpected effect on local space. The quantum connections between anomalies are creating what Dr. Robertson calls time bridges, potential shortcuts through spacetime itself." The implications weren't lost on anyone in the room. Faster-than-light travel had always been limited by the fundamental laws of physics, but these temporal bridges suggested new possibilities that no one had considered before. "We're not just looking at a military alliance or a scientific partnership," Elena continued. "This could be the beginning of a new age of exploration and discovery. The Nexari threat showed us that humanity needs allies among the stars, but it also proved that we have something unique to offer." The Valkyrie delegate's crystalline form pulsed with agreement. "Your species possesses a remarkable ability to see beyond conventional solutions. Where we saw limitations, you saw opportunities. This perspective will be invaluable as we face the challenges that lie ahead." Admiral Chen leaned forward in his holographic chair. "And what challenges would those be?" "The Nexari were not the only aggressive species in this galaxy," the Valkyrie responded. "Their defeat will not go unnoticed. Other civilizations will take interest in both the temporal anomalies and the alliance that created them. Some may seek to understand, others to exploit or destroy." Elena felt a familiar tension return to her shoulders. "Then we'll be ready for them." The Artemis was just an exploration vessel that happened to be prepared for combat. Imagine what we could accomplish with ships specifically designed to integrate human ingenuity with Valkyrie quantum technology. The meeting continued for hours, diving deep into technical specifications, diplomatic protocols, and security considerations. By the time it concluded, the foundations had been laid for something unprecedented in human history, a true partnership between humanity and an advanced alien civilization. As the various officials filed out of the observation deck, Elena remained behind, gazing out at her home planet. Dr. Robertson joined her, his neural interface still processing data from their ongoing research. "You know," he said thoughtfully, "when I accepted this posting, I thought we'd be studying astronomical phenomena and cataloging new elements. Instead, we rewrote the laws of physics and forged an alliance that will change the course of human history." Elena smiled. "That's the thing about exploration, Doctor. The most important discoveries are often the ones you never saw coming." She turned to look at the temporal anomaly map still floating in the room's holographic display. "We went looking for new frontiers in space, but we ended up finding them in time itself." The Artemis's story would be told countless times in the years to come, how a single ship's crew, faced with impossible odds, had turned a potential disaster into humanity's greatest opportunity. But for Elena and her crew, it was just the beginning. The temporal network they had created was growing, expanding, offering glimpses of possibilities that no one had dreamed possible. As she prepared to oversee the Artemis's refit with newly developed quantum technology, Elena couldn't help but feel a sense of anticipation. They had proven that humanity's greatest strength lay not in its technology or its weapons, but in its ability to think beyond the boundaries of what others considered possible. The stars had always beckoned to humanity. Now, thanks to an unlikely alliance and an impossible victory, they were finally within reach. The dawn of a new era had arrived, and humanity was ready to take its place among the stars.